We have one more famous person with us this morning. His name is Logan. Logan placed third in one weight class above his own, which is the 205 weight class in wrestling yesterday. It was yesterday. So congratulations, buddy. Yeah, that's real. I have a fondness to that because, as I pointed out, which perhaps you don't remember, was that I initially started out as a hulking wrestler. I don't know why that's funny. I just, it's like...
Oh, that wasn't a joke?
No, that was not a joke. That's true. And did you recall, as soon as I let you know. But anyway, the first wrestling match that we had, and we're all around, you know, and and I don't know, because it's been a while since I've watched any of that. I don't watch any of the stuff, the professional stuff that goes on today, because I think that's all made up, right? Okay, help me out here. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not real. A lot of theatrical stuff, but anyway, this wasn't in school, in high school, and so I did my best because I was such a skinny runt that, you know, I was some way I was going to figure out how I could, you know, beat people off or whatever. So I figured, all right, if I learn how to wrestle, that'd be a good way to do that. And the first wrestling match we had, the kid got out in the middle, and the opponent came over, and he did this maneuver where he gets his arm behind his elbow like this, and he pushes him forward, and that slams him onto the mat, and he can, you know, wrestle him on. And they do the 3 count, things like that. That was, you know, of course, 40 years ago. But anyway, when he put his arm behind him and he pushed forward, the fellow's elbow popped out of socket. The bone came out. All right. Well, of course, that stopped everything. Duh. You know. And the coach, after they call the ambulance and all that, the coach, he looks at all of us. He says, "I'll understand if any of you want to quit." Literally, that's what he said. And I was like, out the door. I mean, I was gone. At that point, I joined the track and field. If you can't beat them, you run from them. That's right. All right. I know that's impressive. You just keep going, Logan, buddy. I saw that on Facebook yesterday. I mean, the pictures, Mom, did you know, had those on there. So anyway, and also Josh's Facebook. So remember, anything you put on Facebook gets preached about. All right. Also, it's good to see Jim Mickey with us. All right. Jim has not been feeling well. I'm really glad that he's here this morning. And also, it is on a sad note, Elise leaves us this afternoon to go back to somewhere. Nashville. That is correct. All right. I know that she's been Facebooking also, and it's very sad that she has to go. You know, that's a great thing, isn't it? To know that you're so loved and the people that you hang out with, that she would you know, rather be here. And I'm trying to get her to come someplace closer, but it's the way it is. Are you listening, Dylan? Yeah. He wants to go, I think, Nashville or somewhere like that too, so I'm close to it. All right. It doesn't happen very often, brethren, but this morning I feel I need to qualify something I had preached about last week. Now, the reason it doesn't happen that much is because I take this very seriously, very deliberate as to what I say and how I convey to you certain truths. But last week I went off script, got a little excited, whatever, and said something actually that could have led some of you to question an action that you may have taken in the past or may take in the future that actually is entirely legitimate in this day and age. In the context of what we've been talking about several months now in the submission class and Sunday morning adults, but also in what we've been covering in 1 Peter here, the context of working in a situation where your boss, or for that matter anybody that you may be working with, but the context is those who are above you, your boss, is harsh, unjust, cruel, unreasonable, froward. Remember all those words that we looked at last week. I said that if your first reaction under that situation is to quit and to not submit in a Christ-like spirit, then you're not following in Jesus' footsteps. Now here's the qualification to that. Here's my qualification. Even though that may not be the best first reaction of quitting, what I'm saying, and it may be a reaction, brethren, that does not provide an opportunity to talk about Christ or to share Christ through that situation, but quitting a job that is intolerable, physically abusive, or mentally degrading is clearly a right that we have. That was not the case with a first century slave. They couldn't do that. We can. Now hang on to that, because I'll return to it in just a minute. The one thing that there is to be no equivocation about, we're not questioning in any way, shape, or form, is the spirit in which we make those kinds of decisions. To follow in Jesus' steps, who committed no sin, nor was any deceit found in his mouth, who while being reviled, he did not revile in return, and while suffering, he uttered no threats, means that our behavior in those kinds of situations is to be exemplary and above reproach. To be in the Spirit of Christ. Can you quit a job that's intolerable? Yes, you can. We live in America. Brethren, virtually we can quit anything we want to, unless you're in jail. And you can go, why? But literally, this is the land of the free, the home of the brave. But can you quit a job that is intolerable without the use of profanity, vulgarity, swearing, cursing, retaliation, retribution in your heart? That's the difference. It's how we do that walking away. It's not easy. I can attest to that. Now let me circle back around to the slave-servant thing, the issues and the limitations. When we read in Peter and we read in Paul, when he talks about slaves, servants, be submissive to your masters in everything with all respect, even to those who not only are good, but also to those who are unreasonable. When he uses the word servant or slave there, we need to understand the limitations to that of the 21st century. Of taking a first century slave and importing that idea and that illustration to the 21st century. Look, the horrific degradation of slaves in the 19th century America gives the word slave a far worse connotation than is accurate for most of the society to which Peter and Paul was writing. We unfortunately take this idea that it's a slave idea that occurred in the 19th century here, those being captured over in Africa or other places and being imported against their will and then being enslaved and indentured for the rest of their lives. We take that and we make the word slave that Paul talks about and Peter talks about mean the same. They don't. Not exactly. Many persons in slavery in the first century were treated well. Were treated well. Many of them had been born into the house of their owner, and they were trained at the expense of the owner to be people of importance, to do important things. Domestic, industrial, business, public tasks. Yes, mistreatment was there. Suffering, unjust, yes. But brethren, many of those servants were managers, overseers, tutors, professionals such as doctors, nurses, musicians, skilled artisans who were paid for their services and would eventually be able to buy their freedom. I mean, the very word redemption, to redeem somebody, comes out of the concept that it was possible for someone to buy someone else or to pay for